What's up guys, in this video we're going to go through 5 things that you should know about RuneScape. Whether you know them or not, these are useful bits of information that you'll be able to use along the way. Tips that you can take advantage of, and obviously the more you know, the better it is. So here's 5 things that you should know but maybe didn't. Number 1, we're going to be talking about the Dominion mines. Now you can get these from doing the Dominion Tower. You have to do quite a big list of requirements though, and you also have to have killed 500 bosses in the tower as well. I'll link in the description the Dominion mines wiki page where you can see all the requirements, and also you can enter your character name and it'll tell you what you have left to do to be able to get these. However, the grind is definitely worth it because these are super useful at many different bosses, but also the did you know for this one isn't that it's not only useful at bosses, you can use this in many other places too. As long as the target that you're trying to use them on is under level 138 combat, the Dominion mines will absolutely be used. Most people will save these for like just at Solak, just at AOD, or just at Seru for the crystals and places like that, but you can actually use these in different places to speed up, for example, running through an elite dungeon as well. If you drop them on the dragon through Elite Dungeon 2, you're going to clear through those dragons a lot quicker as well. But any NPCs that are less than 138 combat, you can use these mines to get an extra bit of damage off. For example, again in Elite Dungeon 2, I actually dropped this when the spike is about to come out of the ground in the second boss fight, because it will kill off that spike for you quite a little bit quicker. You get an extra bit of damage off of it, meaning you only need to use 1 ability rather than 2, and it just saves you a little bit of time. So if you have anything else that you're doing in game and you're thinking, hey, these actually could work on that, this is less than 138 combat, might speed it up a little bit. These are pretty cheap to sustain. They're really not that expensive. You just keep buying them from the Dominion Tower reward shop, and they can definitely be super useful in a lot of situations. And of course, if you do unlock them, you still got them for the bosses that they're useful at as well. If you haven't got these, maybe pop your name in the actual thing and look up your account and see how far off you are and whether it's going to be worth it for you to get them. Next up is kind of like a double tip, I suppose, but it kind of goes hand in hand, is that the Amulet of Souls and the Essence of Finality amulets both increase your protection prayers by an extra 10% damage reduction. So at the base, if you use protect from range, magic, melee, or necromancy, you'll be reducing the damage by 50%. However, with the Amulet of Souls or the Essence of Finality equipped, this goes up to 60%, so an extra bonus 10%, right? This can be super useful in a lot of places because the extra 10% damage reduction is a big deal. Like, it adds up a lot. Places like Next, places where, like Zuck, for example, if you're doing the waves, you're going to notice this difference. However, what if you're someone who doesn't quite have an Amulet of Souls yet? What if you're someone who doesn't have an Essence of Finality yet and you want to use the Reaper necklace in other places instead because it's best in slot? For someone who's doing Next, for example, you want to use a Reaper necklace instead of an Amulet of Souls usually because it gives you better accuracy, and accuracy at Next is very important. The same goes for places like Araxi as well. Well, if you actually take with you a powder of protection, which you can just buy on the Grand Exchange for not all that expensive, you can actually get yourself that extra 10% damage reduction from the deflect curses or the protection prayers without having to use a Souls or an Essence of Finality. Now, for those of you that are thinking, wait, does this mean that I can use this and the Essence of Finality and the Souls and get an extra 10%? It doesn't stack. So this is just for people who don't have those options in the first place, or maybe using something else. This is kind of like a lower level item. People who aren't using the EOFs and whatnot can take advantage of it, but it's really freaking good. For someone who's leveling up a new account and you don't have either of these yet, you can still use this to get a little bit of extra damage reduction. And honestly, they're pretty cheap on the G. They're a couple $100K, but being able to go to places like Next and still get your damage reduction and still have the Reaper necklace accuracy or whatever else you've got, this is pretty damn awesome. And it's also maybe something to consider if you're using, say, a Blood Amulet of Fury somewhere to AFK, and you then don't have your Souls or your Essence of Finality, you can still use this if you're protecting from a certain prayer and get that extra 10% damage reduction. This is an interesting item that probably has some uses in some places for the high level players too, but for you guys that don't quite have the GP yet for a Souls or an EOF, this could definitely be something to take a look at. So for this next one, I want to talk about the Prayer Potion and the Restore Potion, or the Flasks themselves, because I use Flask when I'm PVMing. I think most people do as well. Very often, people will send me clips for a little bit of advice on how to get through a boss or to check their inventory setup and see if there's anything missed, because this is a lot of the stuff that I teach in videos, right? And very often, a lot of people will be using Prayer Potions or Flasks instead of Restore Potions or Flasks. Now, it's important to note that the Super Restore Flask will actually give you more prayer restore than a prayer potion will once you get to a higher level of prayer. So at level 99, you're going to see that a prayer flask will give you 317 points restored when you drink this. but a restore will give you 327 prayer points when you drink this, and it'll also give you 327 summoning points as well. So you get 2 uses out of it, but you also get all of your stats restored as well. It says restores negative stat changes in all stats by 8 plus 25% of the total level, meaning that if your stats get drained in a fight, if you've used a brew or something like that, you're probably gonna have an overload, but it still stays drained for a little while. The restore will put that back up for you straight away. These are also super useful like Zuck for the mechanic where you lose your HP level and you end up having to restore it back. So these have a lot more value than just getting a little bit of prayer. However, these also, if we look at the sale history here, they're also quite a lot cheaper to get yourself a super restore flask than a prayer flask. So a lot of people think, oh, I need prayer, so I'll get a prayer flask, and don't realize that you actually get more out of a super restore flask in terms of prayer points and loads of other benefits as well. And I guess just because of the ingredients in making them, I can't see any other reason why that super restore flasks are a lot cheaper. Maybe also bosses drop more restores than anything else, probably is also another reason. But these are a lot cheaper by like when you start stacking these up, there's a big difference in GP cost here, and obviously the super restores offers way more benefits, so take advantage of super restores instead. And this price difference has probably been the same way for as long as I can remember, so it shouldn't change. Super restores much better than the prayers, so take advantage. Our next tip is going to take us to Dungeoneering Land, and I freaking hate that name, man. And we're going to talk to the Brill Thox. Jagex, can I just have words that I can say? Thox dot here. Okay, cool. Anyway, this person is going to sell us something which is pretty useful. If you have a ton of Dungeoneering tokens spare like this, and you're like, what do I spend it on? Because you've already bought like the important stuff from the main reward shop here. So if we go to this guy and shop and you look down, you're like, oh, I've already bought the main stuff from here. You don't need anything else. You can spend them here on getting a little bit of extra GP while doing your elite dungeons. So in here you can buy yourself the lucky charms for Temple of Amnesia, Dragonkin Lab, Shadow Reef, and the Zamorakian Undercity. So all of the elite dungeons, right? And for 10,000 Dungeoneering tokens each, you can get a lucky charm. So the way these work, as you can see here, it says carrying these will give you a chance to receive rare items when killing enemies. One are consumed whenever you receive a rare item. So you can take these with you, like as many as you want. They stack. They're not like individual items. They stack in your inventory like this, and they can just get consumed while you're killing random stuff in the actual dungeons. But places like Elite Dungeon 3 is going to give you the extra chance to get like the Shadow Yegg, all of this sort of stuff, along with giving you other alkables and just increasing your actual GP profits while you're running it. The Elite Dungeon 4 one, however, is going to give you access to the slivers. So if you're ever doing Elite Dungeon 4 and running the full thing, especially for your like prereqs of being able to skip Zami and it's 25 runs, you should be using these, because if you get the slivers, you can make a good amount of profit from those, especially the blue ones, and it just makes sense to use. But you also get other things as well, like alcohol, like salvage. You also get like Hydrix tips and all this sort of stuff, Onyx tips, whatever it is. But there's many other things that you can get. So take a look at the lucky charms before you go in if you have some spare Dungeoneering tokens. I do believe these are one of the most profitable ways to actually spend your Dungeoneering tokens and get yourself some money. I do think the Zamorakian ones are the most profitable ones in terms of GP return. I could be wrong though. I think as well, maybe Vital Spark drop enhancers are also kind of worth it if you're going to be spending on that. But yeah, take advantage of lucky charms. They're really freaking good. The final one for today is, did you know that the Luck of the Dwarves buff, which gives you an extra 1% chance at a rare drop at bosses, doesn't actually work at all bosses? It's very often that I'm on stream doing Elite Dungeons. Well, one, it's very often that I'm on stream doing Elite Dungeons, but two, it's very often that I'm doing that and then someone will question why I'm not using Luck of the Dwarves. Hey, innit, you don't have Luck of the Dwarves, you forgot your Luck of the Dwarves, make sure you get it from the bank. And the truth is, it doesn't work there. The Luck of the Dwarves does not work at any of the Elite Dungeon bosses for increasing the rare drop chance, and it also doesn't work at, I believe, Legions as well. So this means that if you go to those places, you don't have to bring it along, and you can just have that inventory space given back to you. Whether you fill it with food or another switch or whatever you want to do, you still have that inventory slot available, and you don't need to look at the dwarves for these bosses. That being said, it is worth mentioning though that it will still give you that extra chance at a rare drop table as you're killing the regular trash mobs through the dungeon. So this can still give you the access to the signet ring, of course, because it gives you the rare drop table drop. So if you want to wear it while you're clearing the dungeon and killing the trash mobs, then you might as well. But for the boss fight itself, there's not really all that much point. because it doesn't work on those bosses in the slightest. Again, with the bosses, it will give you that one chance to get the rare drop table drop from it, but it's probably not worth your time bringing it in the inventory, especially if you're learning these bosses as well. And of course, when you're clearing the dungeon, you could be using something like a Ring of Death for the extra adrenaline to clear quicker, or obviously just getting a better amount of stats from a different ring in general, like better crits and all that sort of stuff. So you just have to weigh up the costs. Do you want to run the dungeon and get the rare drop table drops, or do you want to run the dungeon and clear it quicker and have more adrenaline, or whatever you end up doing? Just weigh up what's better for you. But yeah, this ring doesn't work everywhere, and so it's probably not worth using at the boss fights in Elite Dungeons and at Legions. And there we go, there's 5 things that you should know about RuneScape because they're super helpful to know about, useful bits of information, but maybe you didn't because they're not the most popular common facts in the game. But hopefully you all found this interesting or useful in any way, and if you did, then please do leave a like on the video. Also sub to the channel if you are new, of course, and if you can think of any more of these, then drop them in the comments. I'll screenshot your name and your comment, and we'll use it for the next video like this, and you'll get some credit as well. Anyway, other than that, I appreciate it, and I'll catch you all in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye.